Welcome to the 7th week of class. In this lecture, we'll cover a variety of topics, including organizational entry and exit, as well as pay for performance plans, rewards, and discipline. We won't cover all of the topics in the 2 chapters that I assigned, just those that are relevant to us as aspiring personnel psychologists and managers. My goal this week is to share some information about how to better manage the employment relationship, which includes the interactions between employees and their employers. Organizational entry marks the beginning of the relationship. Organizational exit marks the end of the relationship. In the first stage, in the entry stage, employees begin to learn about the organization, their role, and they begin to form attitudes about the organization and their job. In the exit stage, the relationship ends either voluntarily or involuntary. There's a couple of different ways that employees can be terminated. There are a variety of different forces, both internal and external to the relationship, that impact how it develops, that impact how employees' perceptions and attitudes are formed, that impact how they perform their jobs and how they interact with other people. When the employment relationship is a positive one, when it's of high quality, we as the organization enjoy positive outcomes. It is worth it to invest in relationships with employees, and not just the interaction between two people, but the relationship that the employer, that the organization has with the employee. It's worth it to invest in that relationship because of all the different benefits that the employer can enjoy. Everything from increased job satisfaction, job performance, organizational commitment, and those are all the individual level benefits. The organization, we already know from previous classes, will then enjoy benefits when its individuals enjoy benefits. So the same kind of correlations we've learned about in earlier weeks, things like the organization's performance, its profitability, its sustainability, its competitive advantage. All of these outcomes can be reached when we fully support the people who reach those goals, the people who are responsible for doing the work, our employees. When the employment relationship is a negative one, when it's of low quality, we suffer the negative consequences. Job satisfaction might be low, turnover might be high, performance might be subpar, and as a result, the organization is not reaching its full potential. It's not leveraging its human resources like it could. Think about your relationships with your friends and your colleagues. What was it like when you first met them? How did you get to know these people? Did you learn to like them? Or did you decide to limit your investment in the relationship? Maybe you didn't know much about them. Maybe you listened to them, you observed, you asked them questions to get to know them. This process also happens when newly hired employees join the organization. We call it socialization. During this process, employees learn how to do their jobs. They learn about the organization, its mission, its vision, its strategy, its goals, its values. They learn the expected behaviors, not only for doing their job, but also for interacting with other people. They learn what not to do. They learn the tips and tricks of surviving in the organization. The socialization process involves more than just learning how to do your job. It involves learning the ins and the outs of the organization and how to behave. This process happens whether we have anything to do with it or not. We can encourage socialization through policies, procedures, practices, but this also happens informally within the culture, within one-on-one relationships, within training programs. Socialization happens in a variety of different settings, so we might as well have some say, some control over that process. But as the employer, we have a responsibility to guide them through this getting to know us process. One of the things we might do is implement an employee orientation program. This type of training is conducted by the organization, but departments can have their own programs as well. The goal is to facilitate the socialization process, to make sure that we've checked all the boxes, that employees know what we want them to know. These trainings are often completed within the first few days of a new employee's job, but we can start the process sooner, right after they accept the job offer. Some orientation activities can be done remotely. For instance, reading documentation, reviewing videos, taking surveys, providing information about your interests and your preferences. All of this information can be done before the first day of work. Best practice is to rely on the formal orientation program, but supplement it with more informal activities like networking, holiday celebrations, employee recognition programs. Some of these more informal activities can also help employees better understand the organization's goals, values, culture, expectations. In many cases, formal orientation programs facilitate institutionalized socialization, a standardized process. Everyone who attends that program receives the same information in the same order using the same delivery method. Formal orientation programs are also designed around the organization, the big picture. Individualized socialization is facilitated through some of the more informal activities. You can have formal individualized orientation programs, but that's a really expensive approach. You'd have to create a training program for every single job. We usually leave that up to the departments and the managers of those groups to facilitate that orientation program with individual employees. It's something to consider. It's more expensive to customize programs. That's why the informal usually goes with the individualized socialization process. The kind of information you include in an orientation program very much depends on the organization, the job, the people, a variety of different factors. And we won't get into all of those different factors, but I did want to share some examples, some of the things you might want to include, some of the things you might want to do. Here is a figure depicting some of those things: employee benefits, company policies, a day in the life of, what the daily routine might look like for someone. It will always vary, but this helps people predict what comes next and cope with the ambiguity of a new job. So don't skip over the daily routine. It is worth mentioning. How the organization works, safety measures and regulations that are important to the job. It's always a good idea to cover those on the first day, and possibly a facilities tour. When designing an orientation program, there are some things we should avoid. Don't waste time with paperwork. Paperwork is something that can be done before employees arrive on the first day. That is an activity that can be done remotely. Don't focus on the negative. It's important to provide a realistic job preview, yes, but that information should have already been provided. If you overwhelm employees on the first day with new information that is mostly negative, you may not see them on day 2. They may not return. Limit the use of one-way communication and try to incorporate two-way communication as much as possible. Lectures and homework may be part of the process, maybe. But socialization requires interaction with representatives from the organization. Try to provide as many opportunities as you can for new employees to engage with other members of the organization, to engage with decision makers, to engage with the trainer, the person who is facilitating the socialization process. Don't overwhelm employees with too much information, and don't include information that is not immediately relevant to them. Try to put yourself in their shoes and remember what it was like to be the new person at the organization. It's their first day of work. Try to imagine what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what kinds of questions they might have. Don't limit orientation to the first day of work. It can happen before the first day of work, and it should continue for at least the first few weeks, if not the first few months. Those first few weeks do not have to be formal trainings all day long, 8 hours a day. There should be informal activities dispersed throughout those first few weeks, those first few months, to help employees, to support them as they become familiar with the organization. And finally, don't spend too much time bragging about the organization. New employees have already said yes. They've already expressed interest in the organization, in the job. Save this time, this orientation time, for getting them ready to go, not continuing to sell the organization. Don't waste time on that. One of the things that we commonly share with employees during the orientation program is a copy of the organization's handbook. This document is a formal document. It has been created by organizational representatives. It contains information about the organization, about the job, and it contains expectations for employee behavior. Organizational handbooks are extremely important. They are a challenge to create. They may sound boring to some of us, but these handbooks are essentially like a class syllabus, a course syllabus. Without a syllabus, we would have zero direction in this course. I might have some understanding in my head, but you would have no idea where we're going in this course. You would have no idea when things are due. You would have no idea what I expect of you. A course syllabus is important to your understanding of the course, just as an employee handbook is important to employees' understanding of their role in the organization. This document communicates policies, practices, procedures. It also helps explain the organization's philosophy in terms of managing the employment relationship. You can learn a lot about how an organization sees its employees just by reading the language in a handbook. Following along with this, handbooks can also express the organization's culture, its mission, its vision, and help bring those abstract ideas to life. A really well-designed handbook can be motivating. It can get people excited about the organization and the work that they're about to begin. And while this document is not a formal contract, it's more of an informal contract, it serves as a way to make sure that both parties are on the same page, that they have mutual agreement in terms of what the employee expects from the employer and what the employer expects from the employee. This is a list of the different sections that you might include in your handbook. I won't go through the list, don't worry. This slide is more for your information and to help you complete the homework assignments this week.